Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and this is Tuesday, May the 21st. This will be our chart lesson for today. Really, we just had a continuation of the range from yesterday. You can see this was the highs yesterday, and this was pretty much the lows where we had the same support yesterday. And we did break out this afternoon, but now we're back inside the range and probably going lower would be my guess. I don't know. It's so late in the day. Um, but my guess is we'll probably head lower, and we might even be able to get a trend line. Well, I would say we could have a line over here, but I would have had that going so far, and we got the break and a retest now, so we may end up going higher yet. We'll just have to see. But let's talk about the trades. Again, we just had a couple of ranges. This one was the trend line was not very hard to find really, but where the upper line was, it looked like it was right there, which is what I thought, but then we got above it and started bouncing off of it. So then I thought maybe it was right there, and that may be it. This may be just overshoots up here. But I'm starting to lean more towards maybe this being it right here, up here. So I don't know. It doesn't matter. The main thing is, prices were coming. There were, setups off this EMA or the trend line all the way up, and there really was a long right there as well. I don't have it marked, but it set up after I'd already set my chart up. Let's just go ahead and mark it, and we'll talk about it in case you saw it. But let's talk about the first trade. We'll just go through each one. This was the original trend line. Somebody sent me an email, and they had this drawn, but then they didn't know if they were right, and they're drawing it. You can't get too caught up in your trend lines. They're important, yes, but I mean, it's not hard to understand that when that EMA is pointing up and everything's above it and bouncing off of it, that, at least for that point in time, prices are going higher. You don't know that you're going to get this big sell-off here, but really there's a little two-legged correction with a second entry long there. You can't see this when it's on a smaller level, but, one leg back, pull back, the second leg down. So this was your first entry, pull back, second entry, and it trapped everybody. It turned down, so it's a trap. I didn't like it. There's too many overlapping bars there. You don't know that prices are going to do this. So unless you had your trend line drawn and you got that bounce off of it, that'd be the only way you saw it. If you did, there is a little breakout pullback short even for the little trading range, but I just didn't like it. It's been dangerous selling this market without a clear-cut signal that the trend is over. And but if you saw that and you took it, there's nothing wrong with it. I just don't like it. And then obviously here's your trend coming down. We got a little break here. We tried to retest it, but the support was just too strong. And I drew this in green. I'll talk about it. I had a losing trade right here. I actually lost some money today on this trade. And then we reversed and went higher. Made it all back right here. But I did take a hit right here on this trade, and I'll explain that to you, and I made a mistake, and I'll explain to you what happened to me there and when we get there. But the first trade I saw this morning was just after the open. It's a little pullback to the EMA, to the trend line. Notice that we're going higher. We made a new high. We pull back. We test the breakout area. Look at that big reversal bar. What I used was a limit order right there at the top. I didn't want to get too greedy because I didn't want to miss out on a big, huge move, and it did. It ticked back just long enough to get me in the trade. Easy scalp. No runners here, though. Then you got another chance to get in right here. And, again, it's just a two-legged pullback to the EMA. It's the first possible break of the trend line, and then there's two legs up to a new high, and it sells off and heads. And guess where it found resistance? Right at the highs from yesterday. That was the high point of yesterday. It didn't quite, you can see we had a little double top with a trap and a sell-off there yesterday afternoon. Well, we got to that same area. They couldn't make that last little trap. Really, you had the double top here with the trap. Same setup as here, just a little bigger pattern, but see that double top, failed break higher, and then the sell-off. I didn't really like going short up here. I didn't like this second entry here. It is a trap that you could have taken, and so if you saw that, I tell you what, I'll go ahead and draw that one in green, just for those that, if you saw it and took it, it probably, you know, looking at it after the fact, it probably was worth. It was a more aggressive trade, but you can see it was certainly worth it. I just didn't like it, and I don't know how many people here saw it or would have taken it, but if you saw it and took it, you know, it's aggressive, but it's a good trade. The next chance you got to enter here was, notice there was a second entry short here. You could have entered here, but I was a little nervous about entering there. What I did was I entered on a limit order, and then we kind of got hung up there, and I almost exited this trade, but I told myself, no, there's no break of the trend line, just tighten your stop and see what happens. And then we got this second entry long here that failed and turned back down, so there was a trap there, and then it still took a little bit of time or a couple of minutes to work on through, but it did. And of course, where I figured it was going to find support was right here, and so I exited my runners right here. And it wasn't an easy trade, but it wasn't a real hard trade, but it made me a little nervous when we got hung up there, and I almost exited because of the bounce here. I didn't see a setup I liked for long, but I didn't like going short there. We weren't back to the EMA, we weren't back to the trend line. You see it went just a little further, comes back, makes a double top, and so you might have went short right there, and I believe if you did, it worked. I didn't like going short there because I didn't think it was a good enough setup with all that support down there. So 62, and guess what? It got just enough to work. So if you took that one, you were probably good. But what I did was waited for it to break up here on this on that little trap, and then it turned back down, and so I went short right there. And guess where I went short? Right at the low of all that support. And I should have seen that. I should have known better. I'm going to blame it on my good buddy. I was talking on, I was Skyping with him at the moment. I hadn't talked to him in a while, and he calls himself the Cooler, and I believe him. So he's probably chuckling at this if he watches the video today. But I'm going to call him the Cooler and blame that loss on him. But then we failed again and tried to go lower again right there. And so I really thought this trade was going to work out, and I held on, and I exited up here 2 ticks above the double top and took a little hit right there. And I didn't see anything else until the little trap here. Notice all the matching lows across there, and we broke lower, turned up, had a little, so got it all back right there. Nice opportunity to get it back, and that's how you have to do it. Great setup to get back. I was off the phone with him, so I was no longer talking to the Cooler. And the next trade's a winner. So, and I will have to say this, going back to my buddy, that's the first losing trade I've had in a while, and never fails when I get on the phone or get talking to him. My luck suddenly changes, so I am going to agree with him. He was the Cooler today. And again, it's just all in fun and jest. He's not really the Cooler, but he calls himself that because, and it is kind of strange that I get on the phone with him a lot, and whenever I do, I seem to have an issue. So, but that's why I don't like to talk on the phone or Skype or have any distractions when I'm trading, and that's a good reason why I know a lot of people want to get together and Skype, and if that helps you, great, but to me, I think it's a distraction. And looking back, I can't believe I fell for that trade, even with the short trap right there. It was too risky, but I didn't see a break of the trend line, and I got overconfident, and I really thought we'd see a lower low. But looking back on it now, that support right there is held over and over and over. And when that one bounced, when that ended as a doji, I should have exited instantly, and probably would have only lost a couple of ticks. Instead, I lost a couple of points, and it just wasn't worth it. Then we got stuck in this little range right here, and hopefully you can see that. You see all the overlapping bars, the dojis. That's just a little trading range. But notice how things have kind of gotten back above the EMA. I think a lot of people were still looking for a retest here, kind of like I was, but you know, it just doesn't pay to sell this market lately. We just keep going higher and higher. And normally I would say you don't buy up here close to the highs, but lately if you don't, you're going to get left behind. So you just got to be careful, and you got to weigh the risk versus the consequences, and you know, is it worth the risk or not? And that certainly wasn't worth the risk there, especially, you know, after I'd already had a pretty good trading morning, and that set me back a little bit. But luckily I got a great move right here and made it back the loss and a little bit more right there. So and the great thing here was if I'd have held on, any runners would have probably been safe, but I was looking at that as the trading range, as the channel, and so I exited up here, and that was a huge mistake, and that's one of the reasons why, you know, it doesn't always pay to exit at the trend line, although most of the time you know, you're going to have a correction after that. But it may be really that I haven't looked at this since then, but it may be really that the trend started maybe right here. I hadn't played around with the lines to see if I could find a better fit. That doesn't really fit much better right there. Let's see. Now that might tell us something a little different. And this is how I do it. If I just keep playing around till I find the best fit, and when I find the fit and get a lot of confirmations, then I know I'm. So that might be it right there, and then there's your break. But see, we had a little break here. That's what I originally had, with a little break and then a retest, and so that's why I exited. But you can see it, the trend just kept going higher, and then by that time you got to realize, hey, we're in a trading range, and we're going back to at least the highs. And so just keep trading it till you get up here, and then be leery about any new trades up here until this acts as support. And you can see it acted as support. It was a little trap there, and then the second entry long. I didn't like going. You really could have entered on the trap, but you were better to wait on the little second entry long there. And it really triggered above this bar. But it was better to wait on this one. But what I did was not triggered. I just dropped the limit order back in here, and it came back and filled me and then went higher. So, anyway, nice long here. Then this was a breakout pullback long. Notice that we broke above that. It went down, but here's the main thing. Notice that you got a new low here. Notice how this low is lower than this one. So you got a new low. First entry short, second entry short. It trapped everybody. Look at that reversal bar. Open on its low, close on its high. Drop a limit order there when it broke higher, or either put your stop order right there. Easy trade. And if you use the limit order, your runner was safe on this one too. It wouldn't have been if you used a stop, but if you used a limit order right at the top, your runners would have been safe. And then this is just almost the identical repeat pattern. Actually, this pattern looks the same here, here, and here. It's a little different, but it's very similar. You get the little move up that fails, it comes back, and it gives you a second entry, and it's kind of the same all the way up. Similar here as well. Second entry long. First pullback, first entry, pullback, second entry. And if you didn't like that bar, you could have waited for this one. And again, just drop a little limit order in there. There's enough room to get out if you use a limit order back to the top. And it didn't matter anyway. It rocketed on higher. And then we already talked about this one. We finally found support up here. There was a second entry long there, and you see what happened with all that overlap. I think somebody asked me about this trade. If you got a nice setup here, you might have thought about entering right there, but it was better to wait on a second entry before you went long. And then again, another move up, and then we've been correcting ever since. And I really, there was a long here, but only because it came off the trend line, a nice reversal bar. Again, I'd probably use a limit order right there. I don't know if would a stop have worked there. 69 3/4. Yeah, just exactly enough to get out, and it's generally what you find on those traps. And chance to get another little scalp, nothing more, no runners or anything. And now we're back inside the trading range, and so we'll see what happens from here. And that was really it for the day. So, I mean, hopefully you can see that trading range right there, but you got to draw your trend lines. And, you know, when you got strong support or resistance, that's when you got to be careful, because like here, we got a trend line break, but it's not much of a one. It's not much of a retest, but that support's just too strong there. And then when you got up here, you had a little break of a trend line. It's not much of one, but it's enough, and then you get a retest and it sells off. But that's what you expect. This is really not, these are really what I call trends within a trading range. You know, this is just a trading range, and you got these little trends from one side of the range to the other, and I'll probably be surprised if we don't, you know, go lower here. This is probably going to be your trend line right here. Let's see if we can find a fit on the other side. You can see that fits pretty well right there, so we're probably headed to this line. We're probably headed down to the other side, but we'll see. You know, it's almost 3 o'clock. It's 2:45. It's too late to be trading unless you're still in a trade that you entered short from up here or something, or if you saw that little trap right there and maybe took it short. But even then, it was really late to be entering, and there's a lot of congestion there. But that's exactly what happened earlier today. A similar little setup right there. Right at this high, it looked like it was going to try to go higher, and then it traps people and turns down. So just be careful entering longs up here unless it's a strong trend day. If it's trending strongly this way, then this is probably a good trade all day long. Or if it's trending strongly this way, this is probably a good short all day long. But when you're, you know, when it looks like a range day like this, and we've got strong support there, it's dangerous going short down here. And you can see I paid the price today. And, you know, if you try to get long, you know, all of these longs worked really, unless you try to get long right here off these highs. And, you know, notice there's a first entry, but the second entry didn't trigger to right there, and then you got all that overlap. And somebody sent me an email, and I think that was the trade they were talking about. But just not a good place to be going long without a trap. And then you got the trap right here, so you might have thought about going long here if you got a good signal bar, which I don't like mine. But you got a second entry long here, which makes it a little more, you know, after a failed break and then a second entry long, it made it a lot more or less risky in my opinion. So, and you're still getting in, you know, by using the limit order, I'm still getting in here at the low end of this right here instead of up here at the very high of it. So, and that's another thing. You got to be careful if you enter too close to the high, because if you find resistance, it can turn back down and trap you out like it did right here. So, but that's pretty much it for today. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else. Typical questions people ask me about. We might answer real quick since we're only about 18 minutes here at this point. I think that's really about it. I get asked a lot about, you know, the tick charts, and just to say it again, because there's always so many new people coming in. But if your tick chart doesn't look like mine, there's a reason. Tick charts are not static like time-based charts, and no two of them look exactly alike. So don't be alarmed if your tick chart doesn't look like mine. As long as you've got a similar number of bars and the patterns look similar, that's all you can ask for. You may see a trade that I take that has a great signal bar and yours doesn't, but there will be other trades where, like right here, where I don't have a very good signal bar and you might have, and you might have got long right here at the very low of this and wrote it up. So don't, you know, there's nothing you can do about tick charts because they're not static like time-based charts. It's just the nature of them. So I get that question almost every day from somebody, and so I'm going to start mentioning it more in the videos. But there's a reason tick charts don't look the same. So they're never going to look the same. If yours looks exactly like mine, that's a big, even if you got the same broker, same data provider, your tick chart's still probably not going to look like mine. But it's the way ticks are counted, it's the way ticks work, and there's just no way around it. But still, it doesn't matter as long as you have a similar number of bars and your patterns look the same. If you're using a 2000 tick chart and your patterns don't look similar, or you don't have as many bars, or you have a lot more bars, then your ticks are being filtered or counted differently, and you just adjust the size of your tick chart until it does look similar to mine in the number of bars and the number of patterns, and then you'll be good. That's the best you can ask for. So, but I think I'm going to wrap it up today. It's, other than this one little screw up down here, it's been a good trading day, and this was just a mistake on my part. And if you're not thinking quick mentally, or if you're distracted, that's what will happen to you. So again, that's one reason I don't believe, in getting together with people and chatting while you're trading and talking and because you will get distracted and you won't, I really took that trade. It happened so fast, that little trap, and turned down, and I just, instinctively, as soon as it broke lower, I dropped a limit order in there before I even realized what I'd done, because I was distracted and wasn't thinking like I normally would when I'm trading, and it cost me. And I still thought we would get a retest, and so I really, once we had that last trap and we went higher, I probably should have just exited and only lost a few ticks, but I thought I was smarter than the market. I held on, still waiting on that retest, and it just wasn't coming. So that's all we were going to get. The buying was just too strong, and it doesn't really look like strong buying either, because I really thought this was the channel, and it might be that we just broke above it and it acted as support, but I really thought this was the channel. So when we got this overshoot, I still thought we might. Of course, I was out of the trade by here because I went long right here. But I really thought we were going to get this double top right here and turn back down. And all we did was get another trap, but that gave me a chance to, get everything back right there. So, but I thought I was smarter than the market, and it would come back. And you just can't, when you're wrong, you're better off to take your little small hit and get it back on the next trade, because it's easy to get it back than it is to hold on, hoping it's going to come back, and next thing you know, prices are way up here and you're still holding on to a short from down here. So that's the mistake you can't make. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.